Hey guys, Marauder here with my friend Sandalphon, and this will be our review of the movie The Green Lantern.
Yeah.
We'll talk a little bit about what we liked and what we didn't like. We'll start with what we liked because, well, that takes a lot less time.
Yeah.
So, some stuff you liked.
I did like Ryan Reynolds in this movie. I know a few people are complaining about him, but I thought he did a decent job in this movie, and I thought he looked the part.
Yeah, in terms of acting, he wasn't terrible, and he looked the part, which helped. So, yeah, I didn't have any complaints about that, really. Was he as good as, Robert Downey Jr. in Iron Man? No.
No.
But
yeah.
it just kind of worked for me. I was just like, okay,
Yeah.
move on.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I liked is I liked Hector Hammond's character.
Yeah. Peter Sarsgaard's character in the movie, who's a sub-villain. He's not the main villain, but he does a decent job with the material he's given.
Yep. So, I thought he overacted, but it fit because of the character. And the last thing that I liked was the use of the ring powers.
Yeah.
And how creative they got with it. There was one scene where this helicopter was going down, and rather than just catch it with green hands like you would assume, or like they would have done in the comics, I guess, he actually created like a car body around the helicopter and then created a track for it to drive away on.
He turned the helicopter into basically a Hot Wheels car and then gave it a track to dodge all the people.
Yeah.
It was kind of cool.
Yeah. A little bit too... not as precise as I think he could have been with it. But
he's
it's still...
learning.
But it still worked because it's like the first time he used his ring and all that, so... in any real way, so it worked. I was just like, oh, that was kind of neat. Okay, things we didn't like, and I'll let you start.
I think we should just start with the costume. Now, I've never really had a problem with the costume itself. I know a lot of people don't like how they basically just MS painted the whole thing onto his entire body for a good 80% of the movie, but the look to it and the kind of organic lines to it, they never really bothered me that much, but what I couldn't get over was the mask they gave him.
Well, to be honest, the mask fits the comic book character. I mean, it is the same mask he always wears, but the problem is it's the Robin-like mask where it just goes over his eyes and a little over his nose, and that's supposed to hide his identity.
It looks fake as hell, too,
since
they CGI'd it. But the problem is, the way they did it, it comes like around his eyes and then all the way over the bridge of his nose. And just the way they did it, it makes his nose look like 3 times longer, and it's so distracting. Like, the entire movie, I felt whenever he was in costume, I felt like he was walking around like this.
Yeah, it was pretty...
Hi, Blake Lively, I'm Green Lantern!
That was the very first thing you said when he transformed. You were like, his nose looked terrible, and I was like... And from then on, that's all I looked at. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. It looks atrocious. The other thing I couldn't stand was his eyes were CGI'd. When the mask was on him, his eyes were CGI'd, so it looked really, really fake. Like, it had that problem that they had in Tron Legacy, where, like, he just looked weird. He looked off the whole time because of the eyes. The eyes drove me nuts.
I could see what they were trying to go with. Like, all they're giving the guy is a domino mask to wear, so they change his eye color with CGI to kind of give him a different looking appearance, and I can get behind that, but they change it to this really creepy, iridescent blue-green color, and it's always so shiny and distracting.
Yeah. I didn't like the costume, like, the energy lines that kept sparking all over the costume. I was like, okay, I can get behind the fact you didn't want to just give him a spandex suit or something, but, I mean, come on. Spider-Man had a pretty decent-looking costume, and that was how long ago? And that looked pretty spot-on to me.
Yeah.
You can do it. It's not hard, but they decided to CGI him, which he looks okay when he's in outer space. I mean, because he matches, but any scene where he's on Earth dressed as the Green Lantern, he just looks completely wrong because of the way the CGI is done.
Yeah.
I bet it was really hard to CGI a green suit on top of a green screen. Like,
yeah, I can't imagine that was an easy task.
I mean, that must have been something where they just must have gone back and forth on it. Like, no, we want to do CGI. No, it'd be impossible. We need to do an actual costume. I mean, even if it was, like, semi-armored looking, I would still buy it. Because, I mean, they did that... They did that for Batman, where, like, the suit is more like a body armor kind of suit, and I could buy that to a point.
Yeah.
It's not that spandex-looking thing like in the 50s, like during the Surfer Batman, or 70s, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It was more updated and more realistic, I guess, that he would go around wearing armor. So if they did that for Green Lantern, I could buy that too. And don't tell me you can't do the transition between the normal guy and the suit in like some kind of special effects transition, because obviously you can.
Yeah, they do it a lot in this movie.
I know, but it's CGI. I mean,
yeah.
You can transfer over into a real suit.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, another thing I didn't like. This is the acting was flat. The acting was so flat all around. Like everybody knew what this movie was. They knew it was a campy superhero movie. But here's the problem: you have to take it seriously. I don't care what the subject matter is, and I can understand that sometimes it's ridiculous, but you have to try. And I just felt like nobody in this movie gave two craps about what they were talking about.
No.
It's the same thing like if you compare the original Star Wars trilogy to the new trilogy, where in the old trilogy they were talking about lasers and lightsabers and Jedi, but they had a certain way of talking about it where it felt real, it felt more realistic within the world because they gave it some gravity.
Yeah.
Whereas in the new trilogy they were just like, oh yeah, you're a Jedi and now you're Darth Vader and whatever. And so it all just felt totally fake. That could also be Natalie Portman and who's the other guy? Hayden Christensen, just being complete and utter tools in that movie. But either way, the same thing is happening here. Nobody cares, and you have to pretend it's real. I know that's the whole point of acting, and I know they can do it because they do it in other movies. I don't know if it's just the material or the script. Oh, we'll get to the script. But
that's actually a problem with this entire movie. The whole thing lacks gravitas, and I think the best way I can describe it is it feels like a superhero movie that came out around the turn of the millennium. Like, they want to make a superhero movie, but they think the source material is stupid, so they don't want to really go full throttle with it. And for something like Green Lantern, you really need to go full throttle with it. You need to go all the way, or don't even bother with it, because then it won't work.
He has the character and the Green Lantern Corps and the whole idea of this intergalactic space force that protects the galaxy. Like, you could pull so much out of that.
I know.
And make such an engaging movie that, I mean, it wouldn't even have to be, you could do anything you wanted with this movie. And the whole thing just fell flat. And most of that is due to the script. Now, here's the thing. I saw in the credits that, who's the guy?
Geoff Johns.
Geoff Johns worked on this movie, which means as executive producer.
Yeah.
Which means he probably had a good look over the script.
Yeah. So I don't know what happened. I mean, clearly Warner Brothers must have been trying. They got Geoff Johns on this piece. They got DC's Green Lantern guy as EP of this. He had to greenlight this before it went to film. So I don't really know what happened here.
He got struck by a halo of light.
It must have.
Yeah. The script is terrible. It's got so many plot holes and so many why the hell would you do that moments. One moment that I like in particular, Sinestro, who is a Green Lantern at this point, he goes to who are they? Like the Ancients? The Immortals, I think they call them? Guardians?
The Guardians.
Yeah, he goes to the Guardians and he says, Parallax is coming. And I need to know who this guy is and what's going on. And they say, oh, well, he was an immortal, a guardian who was corrupted by fear because they wanted more power, and they went to the emotion of fear because every color...
an emotional font of fear itself.
Yeah.
And he wanted more power, so he goes to the wellspring of fear itself, and he gets possessed by an evil demon called Parallax, which is the living embodiment of fear itself.
So then what happens is, obviously that corrupts him and everything goes to hell, and they even have like his destroyed pyre there that they pan over to as they're talking about this, and they're like, he just became consumed by fear and gave into it. And then they're like, and he's like, and Sinestro says, well, I need to understand this power in order to fight it, because apparently the Green Lantern Corps is not enough, because 3,000 against 1 just isn't fair? I don't know. So he says, so they go, all right, well, what do you need? And he says, I want a ring of fear.
Yeah.
I want to possess and control the power of fear. And they're like, okay. And
this is a good idea.
Yeah, this is a good idea, because this has not proven faulty at all previously. So then, but here's my thing. You have how many other emotional power rings you could pull from?
5 others.
Yeah, you have
5 others
hope,
specifically.
love. I would pull from hope before I would pull from fear.
Yeah.
So they make this guy's ring, which, by the way, the rings look terrible. Did they look cheap as hell to you?
I didn't have a problem with the rings. I had a problem with the lanterns.
Oh, yeah, you did. You hated the lantern design. Anyway, so they make this ring for him, and it's just like, why the hell would you do that? The other thing that I don't like is Parallax is coming to gobble up the Earth, and Hal Jordan flies to, what's the planet's name? Oran? Oa. He flies there and he says, you gotta help me. I know I'm a rookie. Oh, they're all racist, by the way.
Yeah.
Or species.
Willpower is the one thing that permeates all sentient life. No, it's racism.
Yeah.
Racism against humanity, specifically.
Yeah, they're all like, you're a human. This is the first human. You guys are a young species who don't understand. How dare you? How dare you take the place of... Who gave
Abin Sur, the greatest Green Lantern.
Yes. Because apparently he was God to them. So they all hate him for no reason other than he's human, which just was ridiculous. But he goes to the Guardians and he says, "You need to help me. Parallax is coming. I don't know what to do. I mean, I'll fight him myself, but I would prefer not to." And they go, "You're on your own."
Yeah, I thought the purpose of joining a gang was so you never had to fight alone again.
You've got 3,000 Green Lanterns, and I know Parallax killed like 6 in the previous scene or whatever, but. Really? 3,000 of you and nobody wants to be like, hey, we'll help you?
Yeah, no. What happens is they pull all the Green Lanterns in the universe, all 3,600 of them, well, 3,599 of them, back to their home planet to protect their main base of operations from Parallax for when he eventually shows up. They could send all of them against Parallax while he's on Earth, because he's still pretty small. He's not even the size of a country yet. He's not even the size of a city yet. He's about a...
Yeah.
He's a block size, maybe?
Yeah. And they just are like, no, you
like,
can handle this by yourself.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
We'll allow you to go fight him, but... we can't afford to send any other lanterns with you.
The other thing that bothered me was Sinestro's like, everybody has fear in them. And so we can't destroy Parallax because you have fear, and you have to deny that you even have fear. But here's the thing. Wouldn't you think that your one weakness, yellow, fear, would be something you would be trained to somewhat resist or fight against? I mean, all they ever say is, don't fear. The Green Lanterns shouldn't have fear. They don't have fear.
Don't fear. Fear is the mind killer.
Yes. Don't fear. Fear is the mind killer. But they don't ever, like...
No. Oh. But, Hal Jordan eventually figures out that you can get over fear, and then he's able to punch Parallax in the face with his Green Lantern powers. I mean, what is this human thing you call... courage?
We're very, very curious about your courage that apparently only you possess.
Yes.
Okay, the other thing is, every single action scene, there's really only 3.
Yeah.
And they're not even that long. They're not even that
long.
engaging.
They're not that well choreographed.
They're cheesy. The one where he fights Parallax at the end, and oh, by the way, Parallax pissed me off because he wasn't what he was in the comic.
No, he's not at all.
In the comic, he's like some sort of bug.
In the comic book, he's always drawn as like this horrible space insect of doom. In this movie, he looks like
you know what he looked like? You ever in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull? You remember what the skull looked like?
Yeah.
That's what Parallax looked like to me. Whenever they would show him, it was some kind of glowy yellow face, and it always looked like that stupid skull to me.
Really? I thought he looked like Tentacles the Squid from that animated Titanic movie.
Yeah.
Like, the very first time I saw him show up in this movie, I immediately thought, I just won an iceberg throwing contest!
Yep.
Like, he can vouch for this. I started laughing the minute I saw Parallax in this movie.
He is the embodiment of fear, and he looks like an octopus.
And he looks like a squid or an octopus, something like that. And that, I just never bought it. Like, the first time they showed him like that, I was really hoping, like, because it was just a vision to Hal Jordan. I was really hoping it was just some kind of what Hal Jordan's imagination would make him look like, and not what he was actually going to look like in this movie.
Then when he gets on Earth and he starts attacking the city, it looks so fake.
It looks so goddamn
But he's this big cloud thing that, like, started to snake its way through streets and stuff. But and then when he actually showed his face, it just looked wrong. It looked all weird and choppy and rocky looking.
There's nothing about him that looks right in this movie. It's bad. It's so bad.
But you know what? I think the absolute worst offender in this entire movie is the god-awful editing and pace of this thing.
I know.
This movie was about 2 hours.
Yeah, I've never sat through a 2-hour movie that felt like it went by so goddamn quickly.
It was rushed out so much. Like, he gets the ring within first, 10 minutes. He's like, I got the ring. Then he figures it out, the next 5 minutes after that. Then he goes to the planet pretty much immediately after he figures that out. He literally gets flown there by the ring. His training montage was 5 minutes of him fighting against Kilowog and then and Sinestro, and that was it.
I love how when he gets to Oa for his indoctrination into the Green Lanterns, they send a guy to greet him. It's Tomar Ray, but I wouldn't blame you if you don't know who that is. He's this horrible bird lizard looking guy, and I read the Green Lantern comics. I know there's a lot of more human looking aliens that they could have sent to kind of ease the transition for him a bit. They have a Kryptonian in the Green Lanterns that they could have sent. They could have even sent the talking squirrel. That would have been a less horrible transition than horrible bird lizard man Tomar Ray.
Yeah, he gets flown to Oa by the ring, and then, which by the way, he goes right past a bunch of space people that are working on the Hubble telescope or something.
Yeah.
And he literally is just like, woo! And they're like, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
And that never comes up again. Oh, you know what else was really bad, and what I never understood was, when the alien ship that's carrying, I can never remember his name.
Abensur.
Hits the ground, and he gives the ring to Hal Jordan, and he goes, there's no military cover-up, there's no big... you think something plummeting to Earth would be detected and somewhat tracked and better concealed. Because he goes there, he sits outside it for hours.
He's been there a good 16 hours by the time he finally grabs Hal Jordan and warps him to his crash site. And
on top of that, even after he dies and he's waiting for his friend to pick him up in the car, the guy, it's another 2 hours. The guy drives out there and he's like, we gotta go. I'm like, where the hell is the military?
Oh, it shows up right when they're leaving.
Yeah, right.
It shows up just when they're leaving.
As lights over the horizon, even.
Yeah.
It's not even like a truck or a tank or a jeep or anything. It's just lights over the horizon.
Yeah. They send maybe one helicopter to a meteor crash site about 20 hours after the fact. That's horrible response.
They tell you there's a whole military thing about it.
Oh, yeah.
But...
after the fact... after they find his body, then it's a whole thing with the government. But
they
not
don't really,
before that.
You don't see any of that. Like in Thor, when the hammer hits the earth, you see them build the little thing around it and try to study it, which a lot of people didn't like that scene. I don't know why. I thought it fit rather well.
I thought it made sense. They had a factory built around that hammer within, like, a day.
Yeah, or at least you could have cut. You could even cut that out, just having the shield guy be like, "We found the hammer."
Yes.
And then, like, they at least know where it is. Mm-hmm. And then but here there's presumably like 20 hours. Yeah, that goes by, nothing happens, and it's just like, I think you would have wanted to know this sooner.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he gets flown to the Green Lantern planet, and he gets greeted by the most jarring character they could possibly have chosen. I mean, outside of maybe Kilowog, just because of his sheer size. And then he's like, "Welcome to the Green Lantern Corps. You can fly if you believe it." And they jump out the thing, and he's just like, "All right." Woo!
Oh no!
Oh no! I'm fine! Yay for me!
Oh, there's worse Green Lanterns they could have sent to greet him. I can vouch for that.
Oh yeah, I'm sure, but I'm just saying, like, I would have picked Sinestro over Tomar Ray.
Sinestro would have been a good choice.
Because I mean, at least he's somewhat human looking. It's just I did like the variety they had of the Green Lanterns that they showed. Like, they had little bug ones, and they had weird little fish-looking people, and they had, like, okay, all right, cool, but and then they're all racist. Then they're all "You're human. How racist. Dare you become one of us?" So the pacing was all over the place. But the worst offender in this entire movie is that nothing was connected. No scenes flowed into each other. It was just a jarring cut after jarring cut. There's one scene where Hector Hammond starts going completely batshit crazy in this lab. And all of a sudden, for no reason, Green Lantern busts through the wall and they get into like a 2-second tussle.
Yeah. He comes out of nowhere. I mean, it says earlier on that his ring will alert him to when danger is showing up. I don't know, maybe his Green Lantern glows blue. I'm not sure. But it kind of... You can assume that that's what happened, but it doesn't outright state it.
I mean, they could have had a 2-second little cut to where his ring blinks or something, and then he's like, "Whoa, I don't know where I'm going," and then he shows up. Okay, all right, I'll buy that.
Yeah.
But he just, like, suddenly appears, and then even earlier than that, when he goes to that like soiree, that party, and he runs into Hector Hammond, and he's like, "Hey, remember when we were friends way back when? Remember when we were buddies?" And we're like, "They know each other?
Yeah,
when did this
people
happen?
Are aware of each other."
Like, I also like when he shows his girlfriend / love interest, that he has powers, and they fly up to the top of the airport, whatever, and he's like, so I have all these powers, but I quit the Green Lantern.
I quit the Green Lanterns. I kind of quit earlier today.
Yeah, even though I didn't give back the ring, and
I still have all of my powers.
Yes, and I can still do this, but
I quit.
I quit. I also. Okay, now, he didn't say the mantra enough.
Oh yeah. He says it a couple times.
He says it twice.
Yeah.
Once during the final battle, and once when he first is trying to figure out the
and then the ring has to possess him to make him say it.
Yeah.
So really, he only says it once.
Yeah, the ring has to tell him what to say. So the ring's, like, partially sentient, which is fine.
Yeah.
The ring's okay, now this is... So the story was all over the place. The editing was terrible. The acting was atrocious. The special effects were laughably subpar. I mean, just everything clashed. Everything that could have gone wrong went wrong in this movie. There was very little redeeming quality about it. But the thing that drove me crazy was I didn't like the lantern, and I didn't like the rings. The rings looked really cheap. Really cheap.
I didn't have a problem with the rings, but the lanterns in this movie are all streamlined, and I think they were trying to get, like, this weird organic look going to them, but they just look terrible.
I mean, because in the comic it looked like an old lantern, yeah, and you would stick the ring in it. Now in this one, he just kind of bumps up against it and goes, "You're done."
Yeah.
I was like, I thought you had to say the mantra as you were putting it in the thing, and like leave it there for some period of time?
Well,
was there?
It's like in the comics, he holds it up, and they always just recite the code when they say it because that's a good way of monitoring how long it's. Because like the entire length of the code is enough time for it to charge back up to full power from empty. So really, they just kind of say the code as a way to measure the time.
Okay. Yeah. See, he goes to show his friend that he's the Green Lantern, and he's like, "Wait, the ring's out of power. All right, I'm ready."
Boom! Whoa, green!
Yeah, and all of a sudden he busts out into his costume, which looked atrocious. Yeah. I mean, this movie, and I said this the very next day when I was talking to my friend Phoenix923, I said, I have a new worst movie I've ever seen. Because before this, it was Street Fighter Legend of Chun-Li. And that movie had more going for it than this did, because at least the special effects didn't look god-awful terrible.
You're just saying that because you've never seen Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver
No, I
Surfer.
have not seen Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer, although I plan on it now.
I've been drawing a lot of parallels between that movie and this one lately in the last couple days.
This was DC's... I am not a Green Lantern fan. I want to say that. I know the basics. He is, yes. I am not. I know the basics, and that's about it. I know his powers, his weaknesses, some of his enemies, and the basic origin story. This was the thing to get me excited about Green Lantern.
Yeah.
As I got excited about Iron Man and even Thor after those movies.
Yeah.
Enough to go out and maybe read a couple.
Yeah. No. This movie has to accomplish a lot of things. This movie has to sell Green Lantern, but it's also got to sell Warner Brothers' giant superheroes movie project that they're getting ready to go. This is going to be like their next thing. They've gone on record saying that after Harry Potter, they're going to start cranking out DC superhero movies. And if this is what they're going to...
And this one's supposed to be the beginning of a trilogy.
Is it?
Yeah. I mean,
this
even
movie
at
gets a sequel, I'd be
even
surprised.
At the end of the movie, they give you sequel bait where Sinestro grabs the yellow ring, and puts it on and turns color, and then he's like, ha 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 ha.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I didn't buy. He really didn't come off.
He wasn't a dick at all in this movie. He was kind of a
bit, but you could understand it because he was trying. He was scared of Parallax. He was trying to save the Corps, because he was basically the main leader.
Yeah,
and he was honestly kind of bought his whole no nonsense attitude about things,
and he was
because of what he had to deal with.
And he was probably one of the lesser racist aliens on the entire Corps.
Yeah, he was actually kind of nice to Hal. I mean, yeah, he was a little bit rough with him, but I mean, he's like, you have to be ready for anything. You have to, because you are a part of the Corps now, and
that's also because Sinestro is a bit of a dick, but also because Hal's taking over for his friend Alvin Sur.
Right, but I never bought the fact that he was evil or had any evil leanings at all. And and after they destroyed Parallax, there's no reason to reach for the yellow ring. You could leave it alone. So the fact that he went and got it and put it on just completely is against everything that I knew of the character at the time. And I knew he was a villain. I know he's going to become a villain, but it just seemed so cheesy and poorly done.
Yeah.
I mean, if this is part of a trilogy, this is going to be one long, boring trilogy. I have never been so bored at a superhero movie in my life.
Yeah.
And like I said, this was supposed to sell me on Green Lantern as a character. And I am no more interested in it now than I was when I first started reading comics. It's just not for me. And this movie did not change my mind. This movie, in fact, reinforced my previous thought. I don't care. And I didn't go into this movie wanting to hate it. We went to the midnight showing of the opening day.
Yeah.
We were excited for this. This movie looked awesome in the trailers. And and everything just fell apart.
Mm-hmm.
I stood in shock. And as we left, we got to the car and you turned to me and you're like, that was pretty good. And I went, and I knew you were a big Green Lantern fan, and yeah, so I didn't want to disappoint you, and I was just like, it was okay.
I was in such denial at the time. I'm still just kind of coping with it at this point.
You're reeling from the...
I was really in denial. we first got out of that movie.
All right, so
I mean, yeah.
All right, so on a scale of 1 to 10, rate this abomination.
Like 3.
Oh God, I give it a 1.
That's just because you've never seen Fantastic Four 2.
Yeah. Well, I will now just to see how bad it is. I bet it's on Netflix or something.
It's pretty bad.
All right.
Alright.
All right. Well, that is the review for Green Lantern.
Well, I don't know. I've got some things I could bring up for it. I mean, if you want to let me go, I can go.
I think this is long enough.
Are you sure?
If you want to do a supplemental, we'll do a supplemental.
All right.
All right. Anyway, so that's the main review. If you want to hear more of the atrocious horribleness of this movie, just stay tuned. But I give it a 1. He gives it a 3. Stay away from this movie, and for God's sake, if this gets a sequel, it doesn't deserve it. It doesn't deserve to exist. This should have been scrapped the minute the final cut hit the screen in the preview room. They'd have been like, no, let's retool this.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, so, as always, I'm Marauder.
I'm Sandalphon.
And we'll catch you guys later.